Hi, in this video, I want to present the rules of derivative. And the big important takeaway I want you to get out of this is that I want you to think of the rules of derivatives as coming in two separate sets. Set number one consists of the only two rules where the derivatives breaks up nicely. Set number two are the rest of the time. And the rest of the time, the derivative does not break up nicely. The derivative does not distribute. These are the only two rules where the derivative breaks up nicely. The derivative of a constant factor. If C is a constant, then the derivative of C times F prime like this is equal to C times F prime. So think of it as factoring the C out of the derivative. And the second rule is when you have two functions F and G and they're added together like this, then F plus G prime is equal to F prime plus G prime. That's it. These are the only times when the derivative breaks up nicely. The first instance is you can factor out a constant C, and the second instance is that you can distribute a derivative across a sum. The rest of the time, the derivative does not distribute nicely. I have graded enough quizzes and exams and have given enough zeros on them that I can tell you this. If you can just stop yourself from trying to distribute the derivative where it doesn't, you're already saving a lot of grief. You see by looking at the rest of the rules, if you have two functions F and G and they are multiplied together like this, Fg prime, then the derivative is equal to F prime G plus Fg prime. This rule is called the products rule. And it can be generalized to more than two factors. So for example, if you have F, G, and H together like this, then you have F, G, H multiply each time and you differentiate F first, G second, H third like this, and you add them together. You have four functions you do with 4 times and 5 functions you do with 5 times, etc. But what you may notice is that the derivative did not just distribute, okay? This is not equal to just F prime G prime. It does not distribute over a product. What about F divided by G? If I take the derivative of that, that's called the quotient rule. And it's equal to F prime G minus F G prime divided by G squared. Note that this numerator has to be in the right order because it's a subtraction. You got in the wrong order, you got the wrong sign. So how do you remember that? Well, F is the numerator here, so it comes first in the fraction. And so in the quotient rule, it will also get differentiated first. So that's one way to remember it. And then don't forget the square down here in the denominator. G is squared. And then the chain rule. If you have the function f of g of x and the whole thing is differentiated, then what you do is you differentiate from the outside in. From the outside, you have the function f, you differentiate that first. And then next to that, on the inside, you have the function g, you differentiate that second. And each time you do that, you multiply. So it's f prime of g of x. And then you go on the inside, you get g, so comes g prime of x. And you multiply here. And then the inside of that, you get x. But x prime is just 1. The derivative of x is just 1, so we'll stop here. That's the chain rule. The chain rule can also be expanded to multiple layers. If you have f of g of h, and then you need to take the derivative of the whole thing, then it's just f prime of all the g, h, and x times G prime of H of X, and then times H prime of X. So yeah, basically going from the outside in, if you have a layer of 10 layers, just go from the outside in, all the way until you get the X, and X prime just one, so just stop. All right, so these are all the rules. Again, just remember, no distribution in this area. Okay, from the products rule, the quotient rule, the chain rule, no distribution. Just have to go by what the rule is. All right, so a few formulas to get you started, and they're all derived from the same formula called the power formula, or some people call it the power rule. And it goes like this. If A is a constant, then the derivative of x to the power A is equal to A times x to the power A minus 1. That's called the power rule. And I have a video up here applying the power rule, giving you several examples of using the power rule. Well, two specific instances of the power rule is a derivative of x is equal to 1. Because x is equal to x to the first, so if you apply the power rule, you work it out, you realize it's equal to 1. And derivative of constants. You can think of a constant as a constant times x to the power 0, and then you apply both the constant factor rule and the power rule together, and you work it out, and you realize that it is equal to 0. Many people prefer to memorize these as separate rules. So you have the power rule, x to the power A. You have the derivative of x is equal to 1, and derivative of constant is equal to 0. That should get you pretty far ahead, together with all of these other rules that we talked about today. That should get you pretty far ahead in doing a lot of derivatives. Just remember, other than the constant factor and the sum, derivatives don't behave nicely. You have to know all of these rules, the products rule, the quotient rule, and the chain rule. If you can just stop yourself from trying to distribute derivative on a product or a quotient, you've already saved yourself a lot of points on exams and quizzes. All right? Hope that helps. Any questions? Ask in the comments section. Like, share, and subscribe for more contents. And thanks for watching. Bye.